Welcome to Swai Files. I am Swai. In recent years, a series of strange disappearances have shocked communities, particularly in the wilderness, where nature is both an unpredictable companion and a formidable foe. People inadvertently wander into dense forests, scale desolate mountains, or simply stroll along trails, only to vanish without a trace. No farewells, no sound to foreshadow their departure. It's as if they simply dissolved into thin air. What is truly happening in these seemingly peaceful yet mysteriously perilous places? Are these disappearances the result of nature's cruel randomness? Or is there something lurking deep in the shadows, silently watching, waiting for an unfortunate prey to stumble into its trap? These are no longer just whispered tales, but real cases that have sparked widespread fear in small communities. One thing is certain: those who disappear will never return. The explanations for these vanishings remain elusive, like a breeze that passes by only to vanish into the void. Experts attempt to find answers, but all they are met with is an overwhelming emptiness. What is the cause? Something strange and terrifying is happening, but so far, everything remains an unsolved mystery. The question now is, who will be next? And will anyone survive to tell the tale? This is just the beginning. More strange disappearance stories will soon be revealed. Will anyone dare to step into the darkness to find the answers? The beginning of the disappearance. On the morning of July 28, 1931, in the quiet countryside near Onida Lake, New York, 56-year-old Vincent R.L. and his wife went out to pick strawberries. This was something they did every year, and the area was very familiar to them. Onida Lake, with its serene scenery and calm waters reflecting the sky, had become their favorite spot for these peaceful outings. But no one could have predicted that this would be Vincent's last trip. That afternoon, around 3 o'clock, Vincent and his wife were quietly picking strawberries at a farm near the edge of a forest. They stayed close to each other, sharing light-hearted conversations between the rows of trees. But in one brief moment, when his wife looked away for just a bit, Vincent was no longer there. At first, she thought he had wandered off to find more berries, but as time passed, worry began to fill her mind. By 5 p.m., she returned to the car where they had agreed to meet. She waited. 10 minutes passed, then 30. There was no sign of Vincent. She called out his name, but all that answered her was the silence of the forest. Fear started to rise within her, and as the sun began to set behind the mountains, she knew something was wrong. She immediately returned to the farm and sought help from the nearby farmers. The desperate search. Shortly after receiving the report, the New York State Police took action. They quickly mobilized a large search team, including local residents and experienced rescue personnel. The search continued through the night, but the area was extremely treacherous, with many swamps, thick brush, and flooded regions. Every corner was thoroughly combed, yet Vincent R.L. seemed to have vanished from the face of the earth. The next day, July 29, 1931, a historic event occurred. For the first time in New York's history, an airplane was used in a search for a missing person. State Police Officer Lieutenant Tane Hughes piloted the plane, soaring over the area where Vincent disappeared. From above, he could see the swamps and waterlogged areas that ground searchers could not access. They searched for 14 straight hours, leaving no spot untouched, but the result remained the same: nothing. The confusion and mystery. The search continued on July 30th, with more people and greater intensity. The hot and humid summer weather made the effort even more challenging. They listened for every sound, searching for the smallest signs: flattened grass, broken leaves, anything that could point to Vincent's whereabouts. But there was nothing. Vincent's heartbroken wife offered a $100 reward to anyone who could find her husband. She couldn't believe that he, a strong and experienced man, could disappear so mysteriously. As time passed, the search gradually came to an end. The prevailing theory at the time was that Vincent had fallen into a swamp and drowned. By the end of the day, the search coordinator held a press conference, explaining that they had searched everywhere possible and found no trace of him in the area. They believed Vincent might have fallen into a swamp and drowned, and that his body would surface later in the summer as the water warmed. However, there was still no concrete evidence to confirm this, and all they could do was wait. The unexpected end. Time passed quickly. 25 days later, on August 22, 1931, two men named Frank Lazarick and Michael Mosey were out hunting in an area about 12 miles from where Vincent had disappeared. Amid the dense underbrush, they unexpectedly came across a body draped over a cluster of shrubs. It was the remains of Vincent R.L. There was no information regarding whether he was clothed or not, nor was a cause of death listed. No details were provided about any injuries on the body. Some key points. It was believed that Vincent had fallen into a swamp and drowned, which was the assumption made by the search and rescue team. Why? Because the area was too difficult to navigate, and they didn't think he could have escaped from it. Most importantly, how could Vincent, a 56-year-old man, have traveled such a treacherous 12-mile distance, effectively 24 miles round trip, without leaving any trace? That is the question no one could answer. The UFO theory, it's hard to believe given the difficult terrain. No footprints were found leaving the area, and no one heard any cries for help. Water was everywhere, and he was just a berry picker. By this point, everyone was thinking about Onida Lake, an area with a history of UFO activity. Is that true? Starting on May 1, 1997, 2 months after the famous Phoenix Lights event, around 100 witnesses around Onida Lake observed 6 to 12 unidentified flying objects, UFOs, hovering in the sky. These objects separated and then rejoined into different formations over the lake. One person captured the event on video, and if you search YouTube for 1997 Lake Onida UFO, you'll find that footage. It closely resembles the Phoenix Lights phenomenon and occurred just 2 months after it was seen in Phoenix. Next, on February 22, 2005, 8 years later, a triangular UFO was reported flying over Onida Lake, without any blinking lights, only 3 lights at each corner of the triangle. You can watch the film Missing 411, the UFO
The investigator is left with the best-selling author investigating missing people in national parks, forests, and rural locations.
But that wasn't the only strange event. On May 23, 2016, there was a report of 3 orange oval-shaped discs appearing over the lake. Then, on August 24, 2016, just 3 months later, another UFO was sighted. On October 27, 2022, a cigar-shaped UFO was reported hovering over Onida Lake. This is significant because when a location receives multiple reports of UFOs with different shapes, it begins to attract attention as a hotspot. And from then on, Onida Lake has been known as a UFO hotspot. The disappearance of Vincent R.L. is just one of many cases that have left the community puzzled and fearful. The next question is, who will be next? On August 11, 2015, a quiet summer day in the small town of Tomoka, Pennsylvania, 29-year-old Jesse Farber, a cheerful man who loved his family and worked at Lie's ice cream factory, went missing. With a kind face and a humorous personality, Jesse was a beloved husband and father. He often took walks around the Sharp Mountain area, a place he had known since childhood. But that day, Jesse ventured into the mountains without realizing it would be the last time anyone would see him. The haunting call. At 7 p.m. that evening, Jesse was last seen by a few people walking along the winding road outside of town, carrying a small backpack. Nothing seemed unusual, just an ordinary afternoon like any other. But around 9 p.m., Jesse's wife, Rachel, received a frantic phone call from him. His voice was filled with fear, as Jesse said he was being chased by a pack of wolves, 8 to 10 of them. He pleaded with Rachel to get a gun and told her he was going to climb a tree to escape. "My battery is dying," Jesse gasped into the phone. "I'm going to climb a tree." And then the line abruptly disconnected. Rachel immediately recognized the location Jesse described. A spot near Sharp Mountain, not far from the town's high school. Wasting no time, she and a friend quickly drove there, calling out Jesse's name in the dark, searching around the thick trees and treacherous terrain. They searched for 2.5 hours, but there was no trace, no response, not a single sound. The large-scale search. Shortly after midnight on August 12th, Rachel reported Jesse's disappearance to the Tomoka police. The police immediately organized a search in the area Jesse had described over the phone. They searched throughout the night but found no trace of him. The dense trees, complex terrain, and thick darkness made the search more difficult than ever. On August 13, the rescue effort was reorganized on a larger scale, involving the Pocono Search and Rescue Team, the Pennsylvania State Police, local volunteers, and search dogs. Rescue helicopters flew over the Sharp Mountain area, trying to spot any sign of Jesse. They scoured every place Jesse might have gone, but all they found was an eerie silence. There were reports that the search dogs briefly picked up Jesse's scent, but then they lost it again, as if he had vanished into thin air. Strange. The search lasted for many days without any results. The area Jesse described over the phone was thoroughly combed, but there were no signs that he had ever been there. Family, friends, and the entire community were left baffled, unable to understand what had happened. Questions began to arise. Were the wolves just a hallucination in Jesse's mind? Or was there something far more terrifying lurking in the darkness? 4 months later, on December 10, 2016, 2 hunters accidentally discovered a pair of sweatpants hanging from a tree near the area where Jesse disappeared. Strangely, one pant leg had been tied in a knot, while Jesse's backpack was found with his shoes inside. It was thought that Jesse had climbed the tree to escape danger, but the story became even stranger when Rachel insisted that the backpack didn't belong to Jesse. Jesse's mother, Norma Fritz, also voiced her belief that the items had been placed in the tree by someone after the search had ended. On August 11th, during the daytime, there was a rumor that Jesse had tried to buy drugs on the day he disappeared. There were many other stories about what he had done that day, but all were just rumors and nothing was confirmed. Rachel stated that during all the years she lived with Jesse, he had never used drugs. She said she didn't know what had happened to Jesse, but it was clear something very strange had occurred. The Tomoka police had traced Jesse's phone multiple times throughout the search, and all the signals returned to the same cell tower that covered the area where he went missing. This meant they knew his location based on the last call and his phone signal. Norma, Jesse's mother, believed that the police misunderstood the situation. When a parent says that to the press, the police have to pay attention. They don't like being criticized, but they also want to make sure nothing is overlooked. Norma believed that Jesse was running from drug traffickers, whom she referred to as coyotes, a gang. She thought that this was the reason for Jesse's disappearance. However, the Tomoka police investigated this theory for several weeks, but found no evidence of a gang called Coyotes, or any drug gang operating in that part of Pennsylvania. I believe the police for this reason. Pennsylvania has several task forces dedicated to fighting drug activity across the state. These are undercover police groups that have worked in the Tomoka area for years, and they would surely know if a drug gang was active there. It has been 9 years since Jesse disappeared, and there is no trace of where he went. He had no money to leave anywhere, and his paycheck had not yet been deposited that week. Jesse was a young man who grew up locally, worked full-time, and knew the area like the back of his hand, as if it were his own backyard. To this day, the disappearance of Jesse Farber remains an unsolved mystery. No traces, no witnesses, no reasonable explanation. Jesse's last words over the phone still haunt. "I'm going to climb a tree." What happened after that? Was he really being chased by a pack of wolves, or was there another force waiting for him in the darkness of the forest? These questions remain unanswered, and with each passing day, the mystery surrounding Jesse's disappearance grows larger. Was he a victim of unexplainable phenomena, or are we missing a crucial piece in the chain of these mysterious disappearances? It's not just Vincent R.L. and Jesse Farber. Hundreds of other disappearances in the wilderness have occurred without resolution. These clusters of vanishings follow an inexplicable pattern, with victims of different ages and circumstances, but all share one thing in common: sudden disappearance without a trace. Researchers have documented dozens of similar disappearances in this area and other wilderness regions across the United States. They propose theories about a mysterious force at work in remote areas where humans are powerless to defend themselves. Each disappearance adds to the chain of eerie events that science cannot explain. These pieces seem to connect in an invisible way, yet no one can grasp the full picture. Each disappearance opens a vast gap in human understanding of the natural world. Are we overlooking some element that we have yet to recognize, or is there truly a supernatural force manipulating these vanishings? The questions surrounding the disappearances of Vincent R.L. and Jesse Farber remain hanging unanswered, leaving everyone to wonder, what is really happening in these wilderness areas?